sodium. The adequate intake for individuals 90 to 50 is 1,500 milligrams. The average American does over 3,400. Yes, sir.
I asked them what that equates up to being as far as the serving, if they have to measure it.
It will tell you 1 teaspoon of salt has 2,300 milligrams.
Correct, so that means you gotta use that.
Like a quarter of a half a
It'll
teaspoon,
be 1/4.
a little bit more than half a teaspoon of salt,
Wow.
or a little bit less. Yep. A day. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Disgusting. I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. If I have to cut sodium out of my diet, just shoot me. Just kill me.
What do you think you want me to do with it?
Just kill me. I'm done. That's it. I'm done. All right, go ahead. All right. This is a very interesting fact. The easiest way to cut back on your sodium. Take a look at this. Natural sodium content of unprocessed foods. Remember, whole foods. Whole foods. Anything you have to cook yourself. 10% of the sodium content that you consume every day comes from whole foods. Y'all understand that? So if you cook your own food, it's not high. But if you were to eat processed food, oh, wait a minute, let me get to this. So you use about 10% in the kitchen. And then at the table, you might put another 5 to 10%. So now you're talking about 25%, right?
Yeah.
But if you buy processed food, it's now 75%. 3
Wow.
times more sodium than if you were to cook your own.
That's crazy. Wow.
So if you have to cut back on sodium, the best thing to do is no longer buy processed food, always buy whole food and cook your own food. Y'all understand that? So
Yes,
75% of all the high sodium intake comes from processed food. Okay? All right, go ahead, Chef. Here are foods high in sodium. Of course, you know all your cured meats are high in sodium. We all know that. Okay? Go ahead, Chef. Reducing your sodium intake over as little as 3 to 4 weeks can increase your acceptance of foods with less salt, and that's totally true. Habits in general, they say, take 3 to 4 weeks to break. Okay? And that's true with sugar as well. When I started cutting back on sugar, things just tasted so much sweeter to me. And the same thing with salt. If you start to cut back on salt, things will start tasting way too salty to you. Yes, ma'am.
It's an addiction.
Huh?
It's an addiction.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Salt is, sugar is, fat is, it's all. Carbs. Carbs is the biggest addiction there is.
Yes.
That's huge. We're going to talk about that in the next chapter. All right. Now, I hate to say it, but here's the thing. Sodium is not necessarily an issue. Sodium intake is not an issue unless, one, you're black.
I'm brown.
Then you're good.
I can't make chocolate without having some sodium, so I'm just chocolate.
Also, individuals with diabetes or kidney disease and individuals 51 or older. So me, I'm not even on that list. Awesome.
I'm all over that damn list. So a picture of me and say, there it is.
But you know what else I noticed? It's high blood pressure is very prominent in, of course, African Americans. We know that. But I found that it's also very prevalent in pasty white people.
Yeah.
You ever notice that? You know the pasty white people I'm talking about with the blood vessels that are broken in their nose?
Yeah.
You know them?
Yeah.
Their blood pressure's high too.
That's
I mean, you're kind of close, eh?
not a pasty This is from driving, you know.
You look like you could be if you didn't work out enough.
Show that for me.
I know, you're looking pretty scary to me. How's your blood pressure? Is it? Right on.
And I eat a lot of salt.
Right on. You're okay. Yeah, I think you're all right too. Strangman, I don't know. All right, moving on, Jeff. All right, reduce saturated and trans fats. There are 3 types of fatty acids, which we'll go over more in our fat and oil chapter, chapter 4. But you have saturated, mono, and poly. The 3 types of fatty acids you eat are more important in influencing your risk of cardiovascular disease than is the total amount of fat in the diet. It's more about the fat you eat than about eating fat, for example, you know. Basically, we already said this, you want to eat your liquids, not your solids. Okay? All right, go ahead. You have animal fat. Those are all saturated because they're solid at room temp. And then there's plant foods, the fat and plant foods, and those are usually liquid with the exception of what I told you about the tropical oils, like the coconut and the palm and what have you. All right, move on. Okay, there's your solid fat sources. Go ahead. Here's all your sources of solid fats. Keep going. We gotta skip through. All right, saturated and trans fat raise your bad cholesterol. I'm just rushing into this because, again, you have a whole chapter on it. Trans fat, that's what you find in your margarine and your shortening, and because it's cheap, they use it and very stable. They use it in a lot of your processed baked goods.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are your main sources of trans fat. So this is telling you to reduce saturated and trans fat and alcohol. However, alcohol is good for you, believe it or not, if you follow this.
1 drink a
It
day.
is good for you to have 1 drink a day for women and 2 drinks a day for men. And that's classified as 6 ounces of wine, 1 12-ounce beer, and a 1.5 ounce shot of liquor.
Isn't that, again,
1.5 ounce shot.
I'm sorry?
that's according to your standard?
No, just women or men.
Wait, so 2 drinks?
Yeah, oh, I exceed it. It's good for you if you keep at it. It is bad for you if you exceed it.
Wait, so 2
I
drinks?
don't even need it.
Huh? I exceed it.
How about see your,
Don't we,
All right?
We can drink.
All right, moving
For
on.
men, or that's 2 beers?
Moving on, keep going. All right, go. Here, if you want me to click, I will, because, yeah, I don't want to interrupt you with lecture. Oh, great, now you're all the way on the first one.
I have a clicker, but she doesn't ever want to use it.
Why would I use a clicker when I have you?
Yeah, but I'm busy doing this,
Ooh.
so.
Oh.
You need to get your own clicker.
I have it, you!
Y'all keep talking to me.
Wow, there you go. There you go.
I'll take a picture.
All
All right, food labels. Reading food labels is important, okay?
Yep.
By law, on the label, it has to have the name of what it is, a list, an ingredient list, how much it weighs, the name and address of the manufacturer, and the nutrition facts. Those are all law. Okay? Now, looking at the label itself, the most important thing, people don't even do this, most people, when they look at food labels, they only look at 2 numbers, calories and fat.
Saturated fat.
That's a mistake. First thing they should look at, serving size, and how many servings in there. Because if you just look at calories and fat, you think, oh, 250 calories, that's not bad, 12 grams of fat, that's not too bad. But actually, no, it's 500 calories and 24 grams of fat. Okay? So you've got to look at your serving size. Also, the USDA recommends that you reduce or eliminate saturated and trans fats. Okay? Fat's not as important as what kind of fat it is. Well, this is saying half this fat in that, actually it's 24, yeah, this serving size is 24, and that would be 6 and 6. So half the fat in this is both saturated and trans fat. Do you understand that? So that's pretty high. Okay? You really want these 2 numbers to be 0, quite honestly. You want them to be 0. Okay? The reason why we have cholesterol is because we have saturated fat. cholesterol only comes from animal food. So whatever this product is has some kind of animal thing, something animal in it. I don't know what the product is. Okay? And then the sodium. To me, not an issue, but to those of you that is, which is more than half this class, and you know you have to do 1,500 milligrams a day, and this is not 470 milligrams, it's 940 milligrams, so it's more than half the daily allowance of sodium. It's just in this. Okay? Carbs. You want your carb number and your fiber number. Ideally, you want at least 1 to 2 carbs per 10 grams, 1 or 2 grams of fiber to 10 grams of carbs. So for example, if that said 10 grams of carbs, you want this to say, ideally 2 grams of fiber. Do you understand?
Yes.
If this is 0 fiber, that's telling you that this is a simple carb, a white, something we need to avoid. It's not a brown. If there's some fiber, then it's a brown. You understand? Diabetics. Everybody thinks diabetics look at this number. They do not look at that number. What do you think they look at? The carbs. Okay? Because sugar is what? Carbs. Right? All carbs are sugar. You got it?
Yes.
All right, so the carb number is very important, especially since one of our biggest health concerns today is diabetes. The carb number is probably the most important number on there. Anyway, but it's not as important if we've got some fiber with it. And when we go to the carb chapter, I'll explain why the fiber is so important. All right, but there's an idea of how to read your labels.
Okay.
Questions?
I have a question. And like on the bottom of that, it says the total fat, saturated fat. What is all this?
Oh, it's how this product meets up to the dietary guidelines.
Okay.
What percentage of it is in the dietary guidelines.
Okay.
I think, guys, one thing I want to point out about nutrition labels, and the most important thing is this might as well be written in Greek.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
So you
would know.
are you satisfied by them putting it there?
Huh?
You still understand? You satisfied by them putting it there? But you still
People don't read it.
You still don't understand it. Why do you still not understand it?
They don't want you to.
They don't have education.
Yeah, number one, they don't want you to. That's true. But why? Why do you not understand it?
We also don't care.
Somebody told you what it means.
Yeah.
Huh?
Somebody told anybody what it means.
Well, there's something else about that. What is it? Come on, guys. What was that lie you were told in school? We were going to switch to a certain system that never happened.
Metric.
Metric. Remember that lie? Remember that one?
Oh, wow.
And so did we learn our metrics?
No.
I didn't. A gram, unless I'm a drug dealer, a gram doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. Okay? So if you want people to understand this, either really teach us the metric system or change it to teaspoons and ounces and tablespoons so we can visualize what that is. You tell somebody that Coke has, 50 grams of sugar, that doesn't mean squat. You show them what 50 grams of sugar looks like and they're like, oh my God. You see what I'm saying? That's one of the reasons why these things are just totally bogus. Okay? Until we change that, no health will be improved, I don't think. Anyway, all right, so a lot of products will have nutrition claims. There are laws on the claims that they're allowed to make. For example, if the product says it's low calorie, then it has to be 40 calories or less. If it says it's low fat, and that's per serving, if it says it's low fat, then it has to be 3 grams or less of fat. And if it says high in something like high in dietary fiber, you see that sometimes, then it has to be 20% or more of the daily value per serving. Moving on. Portion sizes. In my plate, they don't always match the serving sizes on labels. There's a shock. Okay. Food labels allow consumers to compare the nutrients in two products. Portion sizes in the U.S. have increased steadily. All right, now we're moving on to chapter 2.
3.
3.
Go learn today.
Me, right?
I love your binder, man.
I know, right?
Original.
Jeopardy. Dude.
I remember that.
What's the dial-up?
Don't pick up the phone!
You know what's sad is all the 18-year-olds have no idea what you're talking about.
No.
I can tell that. Oh, 21. Somebody I actually saw it.
All right. Okay, carbs. One of my favorite subjects. Biggest addiction that exists in this country. Carbs. That stuff, I swear,
We're wrong.
cocaine is not as addictive as carbs. I'll tell you, that's God's honest truth. Carbs are way more addictive than Coke. You know why?
Yeah, but Coke keeps you from eating the carbs.
You guys know why carbs are more addictive than cocaine? Because they're readily available and they're cheap.
So it's okay.
You know what, if you have a cocaine habit, you know what they say? It's God's way of telling you you're making too much money.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Get out.
Yeah, I can't afford this back there.
I'm telling you, carbs are more addictive than cocaine. And I'll prove it. I'm telling you. By the way, I'm going to be honest here. I hope you are too. Anyone in this room ever do cocaine?
I ain't gonna lie.
All right.
I did.
That being said,
No.
those few people that have done it, when do you stop doing it that evening?
Yeah, well, it's gone.
When it's gone. You could have 2 lines, you could have a frickin' brick. You stop when it's gone.
Why? I mean, I'm just curious. I always wondered about that.
Because the crash,
To get the high, the first high is the best high, and you're
And then
always
you just
chasing the
chase it.
first high.
no, wait, the crash sucks. And you don't want it to come. And you know it's inevitable, so you postpone it by doing more and more and more and more, because the crash is horrible.
And then you start
That's
feeling
what it
crazy.
is.
It's horrible.
I always thought it was chasing the initial high.
For me, I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, it was like, I don't want that crash. It's horrible.
So if you don't want the crash, why start? If you already know the crash is coming, I'm just, I don't know, that's just
It's like, why do you eat a hamburger?
my thought
Well,
process.
you get the crash with caffeine, and yet you still drink. Do you drink caffeine?
Nah.
Shut up. Never mind. Just get the hell out of here. All right. Well, here's the thing with carbs. Like I said, they are, to me, more addictive than cocaine because they are cheap and they're everywhere. Okay? And they are a high because they're sugar. And sugar is a high.
You know, just put Coke back in Coke, right?
That's why the kids bounce off the wall, right? The sugar?
Sugar, yeah, it's a high. All right, so let's talk about what carbs are first. Carbs are a large class of nutrients, including sugar, starch, and fiber. All right, that provide most of the energy for your body. Remember, it's the first source of energy for your body. Most carbs are found in plants. Okay? You don't find, there's trace amount of carbs in animals only because the animals eat plants. But not enough for us to really say that there's a lot of carbs in animals. It's in plant foods. Go ahead. Most carb foods are plant foods. Photosynthesis is a process in which plants use energy from the sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water to a carbohydrate. See, I only knew this part when I went to science class, not this last part. I didn't know that's where carbs came from. Did you guys know that? I only studied up to here. Right? And then when I started teaching this, I was like, really? Cool, I didn't know that. They didn't tell us that in science. So, I thought that was cool. Anyway, moving on. All right, simple carbs, that's your white. Anything white is a simple carb, okay? They say sugar. From now on, for the rest of your life, guys, I want you to stop using the word sugar and start using the word simple carbs. Because everybody is making the mistake. They think that if they cut back on sugar, life will be well. You know, because sugar is evil. Well, anything white is sugar. Pasta is sugar. White rice is sugar. Bread is sugar. Do you understand that?
Yes, anything white.
So if you take the word sugar and replace it with the word simple carbs, that's what you're supposed to cut back on. Not just something sweet. Because I hear this all the time. I hear people say to me, I don't know why I'm heavy. I'm not big on sugar and desserts. I don't do sugary drinks. I don't eat desserts. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, I don't get it. Do you eat a lot of bread? Oh, I love bread. Yeah. Like pizza? Oh my God, don't even, pizza, yes. Really? How about pasta? Oh, I love pasta. Well, guess what?
That's the
You're
problem.
eating sugar.
That's the problem.
And that's why you're fat. So there. There's your answer.
Straight to the point. You gotta give it to you.
Okay? So replace the word sugar with the word simple carbs. Everybody got that?
Everybody
Yes,
has simple carbs today after work.
Okay, now.
Pick me up some simple carbs.
Now, what you want is the complex carbs. See, simple carbs only has the starch and the sugars. Complex carbs has the starch, sugar, and the fiber. What about it gives you the fiber? In the fruit and vegetable, it's the fiber of like the cellulose of the fruit and vegetable, and then in whole grains, it's the bran. Right, exactly. Go ahead. Go. All right, simple carbs include monosaccharides, which is one sugar, single sugar. Examples are glucose, fructose, and galactose. Please always remember when you see a suffix with O-S-E, it means sugar. Okay? O-S-E always means sugar. And disaccharides are two sugars bonded together. All right, simple carbs talking about glucose, the most abundant sugar found in nature. Most important source of energy for us and for plants. Blood glucose level is vital to health and having energy, and it's found in fruits and honey and many plant foods. Fructose is the sweetest natural sugar found in fruit and honey, also found in high fructose corn syrup used in sodas, candy, and other foods. And galactose is found in milk. Remember, we can hear lac. That's milk. Okay. Linked to glucose, the sugar in milk is not very sweet.
Well, how come you can eat sugars but you have a lactose intolerance?
We'll talk about lactose intolerance later. Go ahead. All right, raw sugar is made from sugar cane and sugar beets. Raw sugar must be further refined for human consumption. White sugar provides virtually no nutrients for 16 calories per teaspoon.
Wow.
So it is an empty calorie.
What?
Wow.
Raw sugar tastes better.
Brown sugar and white sugar only do.
They have the raw sugar packet?
Yeah.
That's not
You know what kills me is that everybody's like, you know, they could opt for honey, or opt for agave, or opt for the brown sugar, or the raw sugar, and they think they're doing natural. Well, really, isn't it all?
Sugar.
Yeah, isn't it all? I mean, it all grew, it all came from plants, well, except honey, which actually came from an animal, but I just thought it was weird. All right, go. All right, added sugars and how they affect your health, you find added sugars in your soda, fruit drinks, sweetened teas, lemonades, sports drinks, vitamin waters, and energy drinks. Okay? Desserts and snacks, you get cookies, cakes, ice cream, and then a lot of your condiments have added sugars. Ketchup is very high in added sugar. Sugar and high fructose corn syrup are equally harmful in excess. That is true, although that pisses me off, that statement. It is true as far as your body treats them exactly the same way. It is not true in that, how do I put this? Sugar and high fructose corn syrup are equally harmful in your body in excess, but in society, this guy is
everywhere.
Incredibly harmful. And the reason why is that it's incredibly cheap. Huh?
Isn't it a GMO or something like that?
Well, all corn is a GMO, yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say in society it's bad has nothing to do with the fact that it's genetically modified or any of that. Corn is subsidized by the government, correct?
Yes.
So it's very cheap to grow and cheap to buy. Any corn products are very cheap. Okay? So basically, at the time before this stuff was discovered, food manufacturers were not using sugar that much because it was costly. They would love to have used sugar because they knew if they made their product sweet, we'd become addicted to it. Because sugar is addictive, regardless of what form it comes in, be it corn syrup or